we were talking about the fact that this is not a major film festival. It's not like Sundance. It's not Cannes International. But I tell you what, the heart of San Francisco Black Film Festival is as strong and passionate as the rest of them. And so we really appreciate the fact that you have joined us here. My name is Jackie Wright, and I have the honor of working with Callie O'Ray and Katera Crossley, who took over the San Francisco Black Film Festival after the founder passed in 2009. So it's a great film festival, giving an opportunity for social justice, giving an opportunity for emerging filmmakers to interact with more established filmmakers. And so for you to be here today, Ty Manns, we really appreciate your being here. And first of all, happy Father's Day to you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And happy Father's Day to all the listeners and those who will listen. And thanks for the invite, and I'm honored to be here. Thank you so much.
Great. We really appreciate your taking time on a Father's Day, and it is, of course, on the East Coast, your time. So that's just phenomenal that you're here. And let me give a shout out to all the fathers out there as well. Happy Father's Day to you, because it is a very special day. Now, Mr. Manns, you moved from Wright State University ROTC program to the United States Army, where you obtained the level of being an officer, a major, I believe, and now you are the president and CEO of Manns Mackie Studios. That seems like quite a transition. What was your motivation for that?
Well, I mean, my entire time in college and in the military, I always had a creative vibe. I always wanted to create. In fact, when I started college, I actually signed up for film production. That was going to be my major. And at the very last minute, I changed my mind and moved it to business. But I never lost that creative spirit. I always knew that I wanted to create something somehow, and I felt like I wanted to be a writer. So even during my military days, I went back overseas plenty of times. In fact, I wrote my first screenplay in 1991. My first duty assignment overseas as an officer, because I was enlisted for 7 years. Got out of the Army, went to college, finished my degree, and came back. Wow. So I was always motivated from being a kid on. I'd like to tell this story that when I was a kid, my father would buy me Conan the Barbarian comic books. That was my thing. I was a Conan guy.
Yeah.
I would read these comic books, and then I would bubble out the language that was written in the comic books, and I'd write my own stories in them. So, this was when I was a little boy, 7, 8, 9 years old. So I've always been creative. I didn't have to dig far to get to where I am now. I just needed to gain the confidence and the trust in God and the experience to do what I'm doing now. And when I finally decided to make that leap, I made it, and God's been good to us. I just haven't looked back.
Yeah. You said you didn't have to go too deep. Was that more emotional, or was it a matter of you had the resources that were readily available for you?
No, I mean, we've had to build our own resources, that's for sure. I think what I mean by that is it was always inside of me. Mm-hmm. The creative spirit was always there. So I didn't have to go looking for that part. That was there, and it was just waiting to get out. For me, it was that right moment to happen. And when I made that decision, and honestly, making that decision years ago in college, moving over to business versus film production, I look back at that now and say that was the right thing to do. Because when I made this leap, I understood how businesses work. When the Army gave me opportunities to lead and train and manage large groups of people under some of the most stressful conditions. And when I left the Army, I went into corporate America for 10 years. and worked my way up from product manager to the president of a $60 million defense sector company. So all of that experience gave me the opportunity to say, okay, now let me take this creative spirit and join it with this business acumen that I gained, and let's make it work for Manns Mackie Studios. And so,
wow, the best of two worlds, to have a creative spirit and then also to have a business mind is really great, because I know a lot of artists, and the business part is not something that they are very strong in. So
and sadly, it causes a lot of failure, because especially in this industry, if you don't understand something about the business of this industry, they will eat you up.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
at least having a little bit of knowledge about how business works, it gives me the opportunity to say, yes, that's good for us, or no, that's not good for us. So I'm thankful that the path I took to get here, I did.
Great. And that transition from art to business, when you were at Wright State University, did that come from your parents giving you that wisdom, or you just had a sense that that was the direction you needed to go?
Oh no. I grew up in that era where it took a village, and believe me, for me, it took a village, a big village. No, I mean, my parents were great. They were always supportive. My father was a military man. So they were always telling us what right looked like. And so that was a great foundation. And, my dad was a pastor, so I had that spiritual foundation underneath me. Then when I got into the military, I met some great people. Chief Hopkins and Gene Hopkins were a family I met when I first joined the military. And they just kind of picked that mantle up and kept building on me. And Larry Letcher and Patricia Letcher, I can name many more, but those were people when I first left home. And I left home when I was 17, because I graduated high school at 17. So I'm this 17-year-old kid out there in the world now. And I was blessed to have these people come into my life, and they just picked up where my parents left off.
That's amazing.
I trust me, this is, God put these people in the right place for me, and I'm thankful for them. And what my parents and what they shared with me and what they showed me, the reason I'm here today, the reason I'm able to do what I'm doing today.
Well, we're certainly glad that you have joined the San Francisco Black Film Festival and talking to us about what you're doing in your path that got you to be the CEO of a film studio. So we appreciate that. And I just want to acknowledge the audience that's with us here today. Thank you so very much for joining us. And I just want to let you know that I am not going to take up all the time, that we're going to have an opportunity for you to have your questions for Ty Manns as well. So keep that in mind as we hear all of this great wisdom and everything that he is sharing with us. Most of your films are faith-based, and you're partners with Bishop Mackie, and he's one of the stellar clerics in the nation, and that really makes him one of the stellar clerics in the world. How did your relationship come about with him in order to start this studio?
Yeah, Bishop and I met, we were screening the movie A Question of Faith before it hit theaters, and we did a screening in Atlanta. He lives in Alpharetta, right outside of Atlanta. And he came to the screening. This was 3 years ago now. And after the movie, he came up to me and we just started talking and we hit it off. It was just like we'd known each other forever. Mm-hmm. And we ended up meeting a couple more times, talking about our ideas. And as the more and more we talked, the more and more we realized that we were on the same path. And he was developing concepts for TV shows. I was developing these movies. He had a lot of contacts. He was a very smart businessman. So we just decided, okay, let's. I had this next movie coming up, and we said, well, let's just work on this together and see how it goes. And here we are 3 years later, heading into, our third and fourth film. And it's been a blessing for me because, Bishop Mackie, being a man of God, is easy to trust.
Okay.
And he makes it easy for me to trust, as I hope and pray that I make it easy for him to trust me. So, there's no looking over your shoulder to determine if something's being done right or something's being done at the morning. I know that when we sit down in our meetings and we start tasking out assignments, that's it. I don't worry about it anymore. He goes off and he does what he does. And one of the things that I really loved about him when we decided to do this, he said to me, I'm going to do this business side so that you can continue to focus on the creative side. You need to write. You need to create content for us. And that's exactly what he's done. 3 years later, I've been able to keep writing and not trying to do everything like I was trying to do before. So I'm just blessed and just thankful that there's the Mackie and the Manns Mackie.
Great. As you were talking, it made me think about two other pretty formidable people when it comes to faith-based or inspirational films, and that is Bishop T.D. Jakes. And I also think of Tyler Perry, who's not as much faith-based, but definitely inspirational. So how do you interact with those individuals? Are there any issues around competition? Are you aware of each other? What is that?
Well, I don't know if they're aware of me. I'm not that big of a fish. I'm not sure they are aware of Manns Mackie, but I don't think there's competition. We don't look at it that way. Bishop Mackie and I look at what we're doing as our own film ministry. It's our way of, like we were talking earlier, sharing positive messages about the minority lifestyle, about African Americans here, trying to portray the African American family in a positive way.
Exactly.
So there's content is content, right? I mean, there's 7,000 screenplays that's read and looked at every year. Only about 400 gets to make it to a big screen. So we're not competitive amongst each other. We just try to put the best content out there. And I feel that if you're putting the best content out there, then they'll take your stuff, my stuff, as long as it's the best content, they'll take it all.
Exactly.
That's the important part, is not worry about being competitive, worry about trying to write and produce the best work you can.
Great. Speaking of best work, and speaking of work period, you had mentioned the film A Question of Faith. And so let's go ahead and take a second here, and we're going to take a look at that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Here we go.
Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil.
Have I told you about texting and driving?
She's fighting for her life. Eric has suffered a traumatic brain injury.
I'm remanding you to a juvenile detention center.
I promise that I will do everything I can to save us. I don't want your promises. I want a second opinion, and that's exactly what I intend on getting.
God's hands help me. He's gonna get us through this.
I don't want
Do not need another doctor. You, of all people, know we can't question his work.
David, men of God, we made a commitment to choose a path he chose for us, not the one we want to choose. All of the answers to our suffering only be found right there. I was so angry with God, I ran away from him. Not today.
You send us a blessing.
I am going to run toward God. It's all in this house to run with me.
Wow, Ty, that was very powerful. Just looking at that and everything. And as a matter of fact, it's so powerful that it's continuing. So give me a second to cut that off here for a second. There we are. Yeah. So very powerful.
Yeah, I love that movie. You know, we had a company out in California actually produced that movie, and they did a wonderful job with it. I was only the writer on that movie, but they put that movie together so well, and the emotional impact of that movie. I still get people send me stuff that say, "Oh, I saw the movie, it was great," or "It made me cry." So yeah, great movie. I really love what they did with that screenplay.
But I think you mentioned that you only wrote the script. That's very powerful, because if you don't have a good story, you don't have a good movie. So that is just the foundation. So don't cut yourself short on that. So.
No, you're true. You're right. And when I do seminars, I tell people that focus on the script. Focus on writing a good story. And I tell people, anyone can write a movie script. Yeah, you just pick up a piece of screenplay writing software and you can write it. But only storytellers sell movie scripts. You have to learn how to tell a story. And once you learn how to tell a story, if you've written it well enough, people will be interested in producing it. So my advice to screenplay writers out there is, don't just write the screenplay, tell a story.
Tell a story. It's interesting. Something that stuck with me years ago, Kerry Washington was accepting an award. And one of the things she said, everybody in this room has a story. And that really impressed me, because every individual, there is a story behind their lives, but it's a matter of having the acumen of being able to express what that story is. Do you have any key things that you share with your students in your seminar about how to tell a story?
Yeah. Again, like I tell people, anybody can write a screenplay. But you have to just learn how to tell a story. And every screenplay that's written, there's a footprint. There's an industry standard footprint. And you have to learn that footprint. You have to learn what's supposed to happen between pages 1 and 10. What's supposed to happen between page 20 and 20, whatever. You have to learn that. Mm-hmm. And like I said, I wrote my first screenplay in 1991, and it was an absolute disaster because I just didn't know what I was doing. I still have that screenplay, and every now and then I'll go back and look at it, and all right, I made it past this.
Yes.
But it wasn't until maybe 3 or 4 years before I rewrote A Question of Faith, mm-hmm. that it finally, the light went off and I learned how to tell a story. Because A Question of Faith was made in 2016 and released in theaters in 2017. But I wrote that script in 2006.
Wow. That really gives an example of the fact that you really have to have a lot of patience in this industry.
A lot of patience in this, especially as a writer. Because remember, over 7,000 scripts annually gets put out there for people to read. And maybe 400 plus gets made into movies. So you have to have a lot of patience.
Well, I'm one of the things that I'm looking at too that is kind of fascinating. Your work becoming a film means that people get a chance to work and they can get hired. And I noticed that you have some key people that have been in your screenplays, from KESHIA Knight PULLIAM, who is in your upcoming film, My Brother's Keeper. And then also we just saw Kim Fields, who was in A Question of Faith. And as I look at that, there are two people that are very familiar to us. What is it like seeing that your work is hiring people like Tootie and Rudy? It's amazing that their names rhyme, that we became so familiar with years ago.
It's a blessing. I just see it as a blessing, because when you write something, as a writer, what you want to have happen is people read your work and go, yeah, I want to play this role. And when you start seeing people like Richard T. Jones and Kim Fields, T.C. Stallings, KESHIA, Joey Lawrence, you start seeing these people that you saw on TV when you were children, saying, all right, I'm going to come here and do your movie. It's a bit of acknowledgement that, okay, I'm doing something right. Doesn't mean I'm there yet, because I don't believe I'm there yet. I think we all still have so much to learn, including myself. But it does feel very good to know that professionals like these guys are willing to come read your body of work. Mr. Greg Allen Williams, who's also in A Question of Faith, he and I have had some good talks since we've met. And he told me one day, he says, that was one of the best scripts I've ever read. And to have a man with that much experience under his belt, with all the successful movies and TV shows that he's made throughout his career, to say something like that, it made me hungry to go back and go, okay, I need to keep learning, because I need to keep writing stuff that will attract men like Mr. Greg Allen Williams to come do my work. So I'm just happy and blessed that we're able to do that.
That's great. And I guess whenever you're dealing with celebrities, the question always comes up about whether or not you have prima donnas. Any prima donnas among your cast?
No. I thank God we haven't had to deal with that yet. I mean, and I'm not saying that we won't ever have to deal with something like that, but I believe that we've been blessed with a body of people who've come in and have read the work, and we don't try to tell them how to play the characters. Just simply let them embody that character and do what they do best. So we kind of get out of the way and let the talent do what talent do, and that's take a character and make it their own and turn it into something. So no, I mean, we've worked with some wonderful people, and some of them have become friends. Some of we still keep in touch. But when you have, when you have talent like Greg and TC and Richard Richard, I mean, you don't have to do much.
Okay.
And you don't have to interfere with them. You just give them the body of work and say, go do what you do, and they create these incredible characters. And
let it do what it do. You sound like Ray Charles.
I believe giving them that freedom just lets them, just like any of us, if you're pressured all the time and somebody's trying to tell you how to do your job, I think you may turn into the prima donna then, or you become angry. But, we just don't do that. We just let them do what they do.
That is great. And speaking of doing what they do, let's take a look at Brother's Keeper, and I want to get some comments from you about that. So give me a second here to bring that up.
We knew where we were going. We knew we was getting ourselves into. We just didn't know what would happen to us when we came back. What do we got? No! I came here tonight because I can't live with myself anymore. What does that mean? You used to always say, don't leave this earth without making sure your soul is ready. I don't know what I'm leaving this earth, but I know my soul ain't ready. You've lost your faith in God. Do you ever think maybe God lost his faith in me? Why am I still alive and you not? You're still alive because God has a plan for you. There's something important you still have to do. It's not about my name. There's nothing left for me, man. I'm all alone now. You prayed to God for help, but he answered. He brought her into your life to help you. Oh, see, that's where you're wrong, brother. Lord, I wanna see him. Someday. If you love me the way he said you do, you got to show me. You got to show me right here, right now. There's a long road ahead for me, my soul. And I'm determined to find my way back to God. My brother's keeper. We knew where we were going. We knew we was getting ourselves into.
That is Ty, that question about am I my brother's keeper? That's an old question. That's a question that is from the dawn of man. Yeah. What motivated you to come up with that particular title, and what's the spirit behind that film?
To be honest with you, I've never, honestly, I've never came up with a title for my movies myself.
Wow. Okay.
My titles have always come from my pastor at church. Even when, and listening to a sermon, even for a question of faith, I'm sitting there one day, we are in church, and the pastor says, we have to stop questioning our faith. You shouldn't have this question of faith. And I leaned over to my wife and said, that's it. That's the name of the movie. And the same thing happened with my brother's keeper. We were sitting in church, and the pastor was giving a sermon. He said something I can't remember in detail, but it was something of we're all our brother's keeper. And this story is about, these two guys who have this special bond. And again, I leaned over to my wife and said, that's it. That's the name of the movie. So I had this conversation here actually just a couple of weeks ago with a business associate. And I said, you are so good. She was just naming all these titles because I was writing a story and she was naming these titles. And I was like, I can name this story, all of these titles. And I said, it's amazing. I said, you're so good at coming up with titles for movies. I wish I had that skill. And she said, well, I'll trade you because I can't write. I said, okay, you're right. I'll keep my skill. You keep yours. But I typically don't worry about the title when I'm writing. Mm-hmm. And I know that may sound odd because some screenwriters say, oh no, I always start with my title. That's my motivation. For me, the story is the motivation, not the title. And often, sometimes the story will come out in the title will come out in the dialogue for some people. They'll go, oh, that's what I want to call. So I usually don't worry about the title. And a lot of times too, the studios will change the titles. I've been blessed so far where they haven't changed any of my titles, but sometimes the studios or the distributors will look at it and go, oh, we don't want to call it that. We want to call it this.
Okay.
Well, that's great. You got to let them do it.
So with that, you sometimes don't have control over things like the title and et cetera. It's what I'm hearing from you. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's very accurate. Sometimes the studios will want to, distributors will want to give it another name. You have to do a certification, what they call a search. And if there are too many titles out there already, because there are titles of the same movies everywhere, and they'll say, oh, we can't use that because this title is only X number of years old. Okay. But yeah, as a producer of a film, you may or may not have any say over that when it comes time. And
Mhm.
that's
How
okay
long?
because it's a business. That's what we do. We write to sell movies. So you can't get hung up on that stuff.
How long is it going to be before we can see that particular film in the theaters? I don't,
Yeah.
or
Well,
online, or
well, we
will
had
it
a
be
20
available?
September theatrical release date until COVID-19 hit. Right now, they postponed that, and a press release came out last week, as a matter of fact, that said they're still looking at maybe sometime in the last couple months of the year, based on what happens. Still trying to get it into theaters. Now, COVID is going to prevent us from going into the number of theaters we probably would have went into. So we'll probably see a drastic reduction in theaters, and we'll probably see a drastic reduction in the time it stays in theaters. So instead of going into theaters for the traditional 12 weeks, we may only be in there for 2 weeks, and then it's straight to TV somewhere. So we don't know. And again, as a filmmaker, you don't have control of that. Once you sign that paperwork for your distributor to take over that film, all that's in their hands.
Yes. That powerful title, My Brother's Keeper, when we look at the recent news, we obviously see that Derek Chauvin did not believe in the theme that we are our brother's keeper.
Right.
Or else what happened to, unfortunately, the horrific situation that we all witnessed with George Floyd wouldn't have occurred. And with the kind of upheaval that has happened, you had just mentioned COVID-19, but with the social upheaval that's happening, do you think that's going to have any effect on your work, your studio at all, with all the statements that are coming forth from our corporations, that sort of thing? Do you think that that will cause a stronger atmosphere for your kind of work to be heard, or what do you think?
Yeah, I don't know how it will impact the business financially. I don't know that. But yes, in terms of what people want content-wise, I believe we're going to see, and we're seeing it. I've gotten calls already about work that I'm working on, more social awareness, geared towards social awareness. So I believe we will see a run on content that has a message there like that. I hope that when people write this content, and the theater, the studios will accept, as long as, again, the story is good, they'll accept it. I just hope that people will put a positive spin on it. It's okay to have the controversy, because conflict is controversy, and you have to have conflict in a screenplay. But I hope that when they get to the resolution phases of their scripts, that they finish it with a positive message and not just keeping it negative. So I think there's a chance here now for people like myself and other writers, filmmakers, to really make an impact with the messages that they'll put on the big screen. And I'm praying that that's what we'll do. Great.
Well, it seems that our society here in the U.S., with all the things that have happened with the protests, with the rioting, with the looting, with all of the social upheaval that has occurred since Memorial Day of all days, when George Floyd was taken from us. Do you think racism, as it has been basically in some cases hidden, some cases overt, did it have an impact on your work at all prior to this? I know you just said you're getting more calls now.
Yeah, I mean, racism, it's not new. And I know some people out there want to say it's new. I know there are people out there that want to make us believe it don't exist. But I experienced racism when I was in the military. several times throughout my career. I experienced racism when I went into corporate America several times throughout my career. And we will probably experience some of that in our film world because it exists. But I think that as professionals, as people of faith, we don't have to buy into that. If we recognize it, then we're smart enough, or we should be smart enough, to stay on track with our mission, what we want to accomplish, and not let anyone else determine our outcome, especially because of the color of our skin.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm almost 60 years old.
You look great, by the way.
I've seen a lot, been through a lot, and I'm just the man to say I control my destiny because God's given it to me, not you.
Exactly.
But me. I know what God wants out of me, and that's what I will accomplish.
Now, I just want to dig a little bit deeper here. You were mentioning about some of the racist experiences that you had in the corporate arena. Do you have an example of something that you experienced that you would care to share, and how you overcame, or what you chose to do about the situation?
I wanted a job one time, and I felt like that I was qualified for that job. And I felt like I was more qualified than anyone else. And I was told that I wasn't going to be given that job. And as I pressed for an answer as to why, eventually the gentleman told me because my kind didn't handle stress too well. And when I pressed him on that, he says, well, it's just by my experience that you Black people don't handle stress well.
Oh my goodness.
So at that point, I could have checked out.
Mm-hmm.
But I marched up the hallway to the big boss and said, hey, I need to tell you this. Because again, he didn't control my destiny, I did. So we all work for someone.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of just, I guess, being afraid to go to the next level, I wasn't afraid. I just walked up the hallway to the big boss and said, hey, we need to talk. Let me tell you what this guy just said to me. Well, I got the job. And that job propelled me into becoming an officer in the military.
Wonderful.
So had I just sit back and took that, I may not have made it to become an officer in the military, may not have gained all the experience that I did. So I guess what I'm saying is have courage. When you know something is wrong, when you know someone is doing something wrong to you, have the courage to take it to the next level. Just don't sit on it. Because once again, God gives you your destiny, and it's up to you to control it. It's up to me to control my destiny, mm-hmm. not anyone else. And I've always been the man that's never let people control my destiny. If I know it's meant for me, then I'll go do it.
Exactly.
I don't hurt anyone in the path, but I'll go do it.
Exactly. Basically not accepting somebody else's assessment of who and what you are and what you can accomplish.
Absolutely.
That's a great lesson in life, really.
Absolutely. Should not.
You know, I have just really enjoyed talking to you. And of course, I have more questions, but I did say earlier that I wanted to give our audience an opportunity to get their questions in. And if someone would raise their hand and let me know, I will, or send something in chat, and I will unmute your mic, and we can get that question in. Anybody out there? Well, we'll continue to talk. I have one. I am going to unmute Phyllis Cameron. There you are. You should be able to speak now, Phyllis.
Okay, hi. Can you hear me?
I can. I can hear you and I can see you.
Okay, well, I stopped my video.
Okay, all right.
But I just wanted to say thank you for the forum, for doing this, and thank you, Mr. Manns, for your time today. And I mean, I feel encouraged because so often, you know, we see movies or we see people that are doing positive things, but we don't necessarily get access to be able to ask questions or engage with them. So I really appreciate you taking the time to do this, and Jackie for the forum to do it. I actually have two questions. My first is, I'm interested in being a writer. So I want to know what are some of the things that I could do to, you know, increase my writing skills, to propel me in that direction. If you could, and I know that's a broad question, but just as a starting basis, right now I practically just write in a journal, but I'd love to be able to write articles or things like that, especially in the faith-based arena. And the second part of my question is, given that faith-based movies are, I would say, underutilized. I don't know what my word would be, but we don't see a lot of faith-based in the movie arena. What prompted you to go that direction, and just the courage it took to do that? And, you know, I just want to hear a little bit about that. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you, Phyllis, for the question and joining today. I appreciate it. So let me take the first question. Some of the things you should do. I mentioned earlier that the important thing, I believe, for screenwriters to do is learn how to tell a story. And in order to do that, you're going to have to put some time into studying the screenplay format, studying character arcs. And you can go out there and read books and articles. You can do all of that stuff. I'm going to show you guys a couple books that I only have 3 books, and if I can, that I keep on my desk all the time. And I've read a lot, but these 3 books were the ones that really opened up for me. I don't know if you can see this one. This one is called Save the Cat. It's a very, very good book. You can see it's not that thick, but it really gives you a good understanding of writing the screenplay and kind of what you need to do at certain points of a screenplay. The next one I use all the time is, I'll hold that one up for you. It's called the Screenplay, or the Screenwriter's Bible. Now, there are a ton of editions of this thing. This is the 5th edition. I think it's the latest edition. But you also, being technically correct in the screenplay is important. Also, how you write it is important, but having the right things in that screenplay is important. And I'm going to explain that to you, why that's important. So if you're trying to figure out, for example, how to write a text message in a screenplay, the Bible would show you examples on how to do that, so that technically you're right in your work. So I use that a lot. But the book that I think you should really start with is, I'm gonna hold it up, it's this little bitty thing here. It's called Right Now, Right Now. Now you can go online and download this one for free now in PDF form. But this book here, this was the book that kind of opened the gates for me when I said, oh man, I've been doing this all wrong. This little bitty book right here. And as you can see, I'll kind of open it up. You can see it's highlighted and I got stuff all written all in it. This is a powerful book for any, in my opinion, for any screenplay writer, because it's going to talk to you about character arcs, archetypes, the things that you need to develop your character or your character. So these 3 books stay on my desk all the time. All the other books I've read over the years, I've gotten rid of, but these 3 books are important. So why is this important? To know how to tell a story, to know how to write a technical script so that it gets read. Because think of it this way, every producer out there probably has someone who reads scripts for them. So this producer gets all these scripts in and they hand them off to the readers and say, okay, here are your 10, here are your 10, here are your 10, here are your 10. I need to know which scripts I can make into a movie, and you need to have a write-up on it by Monday morning. So Friday, they take off with all these bundles of scripts, and these readers, including myself, when people say, when we look at scripts, we have discriminators. So I'll read the first 10 pages, and if I don't see in those first 10 pages what I'm supposed to see, that script goes away. I don't read it. I don't go to page 11 because I have 9 other scripts on my desk to get through that weekend. And if you make it past page 10, then I'm looking to see, all right, did they do the right thing by page 20 or 25? Or if I see that you're not technically correct in your body of work, if your slug lines aren't right, if your action's not right, if it's not formatted right, I don't even read page 1, because now I have 10 scripts I have to get through over a 48-hour period. So if you're trying to write a screenplay, take the time to learn what makes a screenplay tick, and then invest in some screenplay software. I use Final Draft because I like Final Draft. It's simple, it's intuitive, but there are other ones out there, whichever one you enjoy, but make sure you write it in the proper industry format. I've had screenplays sent to me in Word. I don't even open them up. Like, you know what? You can't write a screenplay in Word. You just can't. So either find you a free software online or invest in one that you can buy and write your story. Because if not, you may have the best story in the world, but that reader may only get to page 2 or 3, or may not even get to page 1, and your story goes in the trash. That's just the business. And then the second question, can you give me that second question again, Phyllis?
Sorry. I was just asking about, just the faith-based movies not being as popular, and I know that's an area that's underutilized, and you're having to forge a way to move in that direction. And, how did you do it? What prompted you to do it? And what inspired you in that way?
Well, the inspiration really came from my father. My father was a pastor when he was alive. And he would always say to me, you're going to write stories that's going to change the world. You're going to write stories where you don't have to worry about walls like I do. He told me one day, when I go to my church, I only reach the people that are inside those walls. He said, but your movies can reach anywhere. They can go around the world. And so that was kind of my inspiration. And I love writing faith-based stories. I think they're wonderful stories to write because you can take a faith-based story and just flaw up your character so badly, and then come back and the redemption piece can be so beautiful. But my opinion, and I may be wrong on this, but my opinion on why we don't see a lot of faith-based materials, because a lot of people are still trying to make these movies cheap. And when I say cheap, they go out and they say, okay, I got $50,000, I'm going to go make this movie. Well, that may have been the case some years ago, but the studios and the distributors now are demanding more from us. They want the stories, they just don't want it looking cheap and poorly made. We had a story sent to us, a beautiful story. We watched the movie, and the story was fantastic, but the sound was horrible. So we couldn't use it. So we told them, you just can't go back and fix the sound for an entire movie like that. It would cost you too much money. So if you really want to tell the story, you're going to have to reshoot the whole movie. And he shot it for, I can't remember, I think he shot the movie for maybe $50,000. And I was telling him the same thing, that don't work anymore. The studios are demanding better quality, because when your viewers are sitting at home watching 4K, 6K TV, they want to see the same quality in their content. And so I think that's going to change. I think filmmakers like myself and some of the others out there are going to get wise to this and be patient and get the budgets to where they need to have them to make a quality movie. And that's what we try to focus on is, are we telling a good story? Are we including good production value? And do we have great quality? And if we can nail those three things down, then you'll see more of our movies, at least, out there on TV and on the big screen.
Wow. That is some really great advice and everything that you've given so far. I don't see any other raised hands, so I have another question. How can people access your films at this time?
Well, A Question of Faith, I think, is still on Lifetime TV, I think. We premiered, we had our network TV debut on Lifetime Easter Sunday, this past Easter Sunday. But you know, they're out there on video. So I'm still out there on video. You can go to any Amazon and places like that and order the video. My Brother's Keeper, again, we're just kind of waiting to see what happens with that at the end of the year. Redeemed is being shopped right now to a couple of networks, and we pray that that will get picked up. So we may see that in another 4 or 5 months on TV. And then, you know, our other ones, we were slated to do 2 movies this year, but COVID-19 put a stop to that. The truth of the matter is we probably won't get to do any movies this year based on, you know, where everything's going. But we'll get back at it as soon as this COVID clears up, and we'll try to bring content as quickly as we can to everyone.
Great. Well, you know, I wanted, Ty, to thank you once again for joining us here at Live Talk at sfbff.org. And I just want to remind the audience to go to the website. You can see a little bit of the website behind me and everything, and www.sfbff.org for some updates because we're planning on having some other live chats and that sort of thing through August 2nd. So get on the mailing list and you can get an idea of when we're going to be having those, everybody that's listening in. And Ty, I just have to thank you publicly for something that's really very dear to my heart, and that is opening doors for other people.
Yeah.
And the fact that you're willing to review some of the up-and-coming films from filmmakers and see what you can do to help. That's tremendous. Yeah,
we have what we call an output distribution deal with a major family faith-based distributor. So we are allowed to take finished content as long as it's feature films. We can't do shorts. And we look at it, and if it fits into the model, then we can get some distribution for those people. So I'm very interested in seeing some of the films that are premiering out there, and at least the features, of course. We'd love to get a link and take a look at them, and maybe we can get some distribution for some of your filmmakers there.
That is tremendous. That's kind of like an unexpected gift that you've given, and I definitely will be passing that information on to Callie O'Ray and Katera Crossley, who are the festival directors, and I cannot say enough about them. They have done so much with so little over the years, and it's you're taking their film festival to another level to be able to.
Distribution is key. I mean, if you make it and you don't get it distributed, then it's just sitting on the shelf somewhere.
Yeah. So and that happens to a lot of filmmakers. I've seen a lot of great films over the years that I have not seen outside of a film festival.
It happens a lot. Sadly, it happens a lot. Yeah,
exactly.
That's why we got this output deal, so that we can take content and put it out there, and give people a chance for their body of work to be seen. And they can go to mannsmackiestudios.com. They have to go there. There's a page where they read all the rules and everything, and then they can send us their email and their link to the content. But yeah, if you have content, you have feature film content, we'd love to take a look at it.
Right.
And can I do a quick shameless plug?
Oh, by all means, please.
I want to, for Phyllis, she was asking about content. Some friends of ours have a movie that she can go look at right now. It's a beautiful, beautiful movie. It's a family faith movie called Selfie Dad. Some friends of ours out in California made it. I think you can go to like YouTube. I think it's playing on YouTube right now, $3.99, something $5.99. But if you're looking for just a great family movie, if you have children, especially in the teenage years, that you want to go look at the impacts of what social media and all this stuff is doing to the family, go watch that movie, Selfie Dad. It's a beautiful, beautiful movie. I think you'll enjoy that, Phyllis. I think all of you will enjoy that.
Right. And Phyllis sent me something in the chat, and I agree. I should spell out Manns Mackie, and
Yes.
that's Manns with an S, M-A-N-N-S. Mackie is M-A-C-K-I-E, studios.com.
Yeah.
So it's Manns Mackie Studios.com. And Mackie, once again.
Thank you, Phyllis, because we usually forget the S and we usually add a Y to Mackie. So
yeah.
Very good.
Important for people to know those distinctions and everything. And once again, I appreciate it very much. One of the things that you've taken time for your family today, Ty, and just as we're getting ready to end, just want to see how does your family impact? How does your family interplay with some of the things you're doing? If you want to share, you're the father of two, and tell us a little bit about that as we're getting ready to close.
Yeah, look, my family is everything. I'm nothing without them. My wife is for almost 27 years now. She's been my biggest supporter, pushing me ahead at every move, making sure that I'm staying on task, as we used to say in the military.
Mm-hmm.
And my boys, I live for my boys. I live for my children, and I'm just so proud of them and so happy that what they're doing with their lives now, that they inspire me now. I'll just look back and go, okay, when your children are little, at least for me, I learned that I was living a whole different lifestyle when they were little. You were protecting them. Now that I have a 23 and a 21-year-old, now I'm trying to not protect them so much, but just live right in their eyes. Because when they're little, they don't know if you're living right or not. It's just as long as you feed them and clothing them and protecting them, that's all they care about.
Yes.
I try to live my life in a positive way, in a godly way, so that I continue to inspire them as a father. And so without them, I don't know where I would be, to be honest with you. I'm just thankful to God every day for the three people He put in my life.
Well, that is beautiful. It is so great to have an opportunity for that narrative of Black family love to be spoken about, and so appreciate that. And of course, that is reflected in the work that you do as well. So we really appreciate everything that you're doing, and I just want to say that we're going to be sharing this video because we're recording it so that people can get all the great advice and everything that you have done. And I am not going to test my technical skills anymore, but I just want to let everybody know that I think there is a video song that you should revisit again, and that is The Two of Us by Will Smith. So Google that on YouTube, Will Smith, The Two of Us. It's a beautiful, poetic, lyrical song that he did, a rap he did with his first son, Trey. And it's even acknowledges Trey's mother, who he was not married to at the time. They were divorced, but it just showed the importance of love and caring for the children, because as it says in Psalm 127, that children our reward from God. So Ty, you obviously demonstrate that in your life and in your work. So we appreciate that as you have joined us to talk about your faith-based films and your studio with San Francisco Black Film Festival.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. And the young lady's picture who's on the screen, I don't see her name. What's her name?
You know, it's from one of the films, and I don't know, but I will find out, and I definitely will share that with you as well. So
because I just want everybody who's on here today, I'm going to autograph if you message me off of my social media, Ty Manns on Facebook, and I wrote all the names down. I'll get your information. I want to autograph a Question of Faith DVD and send each one of you.
Okay, guys, did you hear that? Even more blessings. You know, we're gonna get.
I have all their names written down. So go to my social media.
You're not gonna get away, folks. You're gonna go to his social media, as he says, and chime in. And it's really great because I saw that there are some young college age individuals as well. So it is just great that you're willing to do that.
Yeah, so, and I'll autograph and send one, including you.
All right, Miss Cohen.
Our wonderful host. So.
Barbara Cohen, your name will be added as well. So thank you guys for everything. So that's going to end our time right now, but I just want to remind you that you can go to sfbff.org and find out when we're going to have some other live talks. And one of them that should be coming up pretty soon is going to be some of the people from the film Equal Standard. You might have seen the interview that Tobias Truvillon and also Tahim Bryan had on KRON last night. And hopefully I can find that out on the internet somewhere and send it out to everybody. But it's just really great that KRON, our hometown station, really came through and interviewed them. And don't be surprised, Mr. Manns, if you're going to have some follow-up calls as well. So thank you so very much for your time. Everybody have a wonderful, happy Father's Day to all the fathers. And since I have the liberty here, I'm the host. I want to say thank you, Mr. Manns, and I'd like to say happy Father's Day to you. I'd like to say happy Father's Day to my crew, and that would be my brothers Joe and Stanley, my brother-in-law Woodrow, that would be my son-in-law, Carlos Mitchell, who's been very helpful with all the technical things that have gone right here today. I want to give him, you know, a happy Father's Day shout out. And of course, Damon Wright, Devin Wright, not Devin Wright, but Darrell Wright and Chad Wright. Those are kind of like the 7 brothers and father-in-law and son-in-law rather, and my brother-in-law. So anyway, I'm getting tripped up here trying to be personal here at the end. But to all of you guys, happy Father's Day. And hopefully you're on my mailing list too, and you'll be able to see my film that's dedicated to Specialist 5, Wiley Wright Jr., that I honored today by distributing the film that I made for him. And it was all made possible by whom else but the San Francisco Black Film Festival. So guys, keep supporting on the film festival and everything. Thank you, and God bless you. And
thanks everybody.
And everybody's, I don't know if you're noticing the chats, but they're sending you thank yous and also blessings to you and everything.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
God bless you.
God bless. Bye-bye, guys.